The International Atomic Energy Agency worked against Iran and an anti-Iranian statement was issued right before the Israeli regime attacked. This is something that everyone has to keep in mind. All of the international bodies that were constructed after the Second World War are Western dominated. We saw how the OPCW, which is for chemical and biological weapons, how it was used as a tool by the United States so that it could attack Syria. If you recall, the OPCW sent experts to Syria, into Douma, to see if the Syrian government actually carried out a chemical attack. And the evidence that they found, these experts from this organization, did not match with the claims. And these experts were saying that this is not an attack by the Syrian government. In fact, it was carried out by these al-Qaeda forces that were funded through Turkey, through Jordan, but especially Turkey. And of course, they had Western support and support from oil and gas-rich dictatorships, especially Qatar in the Persian Gulf. So what happened when these OPCW inspectors went back and started writing their report? They were sidelined. And then a political report was written. A very good journalist, Aaron Mate, has done work on this, and you can find his work on the Gray Zone website, which explains what exactly happened. The International Atomic Energy Agency plays the same role. It is a body that is controlled by the West. If you use AI, I use DeepSeek to search this. Out of the 35 board members, 17 are European and North American. That is almost half. And then South Korea and Japan are also board members. That gives them a clear majority. They had 20 votes against Iran. 19 of them were European, North American, Japan, South Korea, and the chainsaw man in Argentina. 20 votes. The rest of the world either voted against it or did not vote for this resolution. In other words, the overwhelming majority of the world population did not accept this, but they don't have the votes because these are not democratic bodies. The head of the organization is also someone who's in the pocket of the United States. The previous head, his name was Amano. He was Japanese. People can look this up. When he was a candidate to be the head of the this international body, the IAEA, he went and told the United States government that I will be with you on all issues. I will be your man if you choose me. If you check WikiLeaks, the documents are there. So if anyone has a question about why did the International Atomic Energy Agency take that position, that is the reason. Otherwise, the International Atomic Energy Agency has never claimed at any point in history that Iran was trying to produce a nuclear weapon. Not in the 1990s, not in since 9/11, and not now. Never. There's been no evidence provided that Iran's nuclear program has been anything but peaceful.
Did the IAEA provide sensitive information to the United States and Israel that was used to attack Iran?
Yes, that is another issue. The International Atomic Energy Agency has been using its experts to take information from Iran, and they pass on that information to Western intelligence agencies. And as a result, over the years, the Israeli regime has assassinated a number of our scientists. And during this war, they murdered a number of the scientists, a number of other scientists, nuclear scientists. In fact, the first scientist that was murdered by the Israeli regime with Western support, with US support in particular, was a colleague of mine at the University of Tehran. And he was murdered in front of his wife. And during the recent assaults, as I said, a number of these scientists were murdered with their families, with their wives and children, and in one case, their extended family, as that person was staying with his father at his father's house. So the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is in the pocket of the United States, as I said, if all you have to do is look at the WikiLeaks documents, has always been working with US intelligence. And when Iran's nuclear strikes were being bombed by the Israeli regime and the United States, neither the head of this organization nor the organization itself condemned attacks on Iranian nuclear installations. They refused to condemn attacks. And in fact, members of the board, as I said earlier, Western regimes, they said that the Israeli regime has the right to defend itself, just like it's defending itself in Gaza and exterminating children, just like they exterminated thousands of children in Lebanon, just as they helped exterminate children in Syria through supporting ISIS and Al Qaeda. The Israeli regime has the right to defend itself in bombing Iranian civilian targets, including nuclear targets. And I should point out also that the 3 installations that in Esfahan, in Natanz and Fordo, that the American regime, the regime in Washington, and the regime in Tel Aviv bombed, all 3 of these installations are regularly inspected by International Atomic Energy Agency experts. All of them. Every part, every building, every place that's been bombed is under regular inspection. In other words, there's nothing there. But the United States and the Israeli regime give themselves the right to do what they want, and the Western media, by lying, by fabricating information, by fear-mongering, they justify it. So as I said, in the case of CNN, they talk about sleeper cells. Okay, well now, where are those sleeper cells? Where are they? They just go on to the next topic after they achieve their goals, they move on to something else. And the gullible audience that watches CNN or the BBC or Sky News or Fox News or MSNBC or ABC, NBC, CBS, they move on with mainstream media as well. Or they fabricate stories like they say that the Iranians want to wipe the Israeli regime off the face of the earth. Whereas the Iranian foreign policy towards the Israeli regime has always been very clear. All of these journalists know this, that Iran's position has always, since the beginning of the revolution, was that the Israeli regime must be dismantled like South Africa. But in the West, these journalists, who are some of them I know, they've spoken with me. Some of them have come to Tehran. Some of them have spoken to me on the phone. Some of them interact with me through email. Some of them interact with me online in different ways. I've explained this to many of them, but they will repeat the fabrications because that is a part of the agenda. They have to say that Iran wants to wipe Israel off the map to make it seem like Iran wants to build a nuclear weapon to slaughter Jews. That's basically what they're trying to do in order to justify war against Iran. And it doesn't, and this is the interesting thing that so many Iranians, especially young Iranians, saw, that it doesn't matter if it's Fox News or if it's MSNBC. In fact, going back to Syria, if you recall, and I think since your audience is politically aware, when Trump was elected the first time, he was Putin's puppet and a stooge for the Kremlin in the eyes of CNN and MSNBC and the mainstream media. But as soon as he started launching those missiles against Syria, suddenly everyone supported him. So when it comes to death and destruction and destroying other countries or countries that are not obedient to the United States, then all of those people who considered him to be a puppet or claimed that he was a puppet suddenly start cheering for him.